please join me in welcoming Michael Spence.
Thank you, and I appreciate everybody that signed up and showed up today. I hope everybody will leave with some action items and you'll get some things done while we're in here. We're gonna run this like a workshop and not just like me talking, telling you what to do, but we're gonna get your hands on. That's why we asked you to bring your laptops. I'm gonna walk up here so I can go through some slides with you. So based on the introduction, I've been on LinkedIn for 8 years, and she talked about me growing a business to be listed on the Inc. 500 list, and the majority of my business development and the relationships I was able to establish were nurtured through LinkedIn and people that were there. So I've been using the platform. I've seen it through the evolution, through the Microsoft acquisition, some of the changes that have happened. I have direct connections at LinkedIn that I talk to about the algorithm and how best practices, right? I read these LinkedIn reports on what people are doing and how it's working. So I'm not gonna get, and this is a technical crowd, so I may even get a little more technical with you, but I'll try to keep it practical. And like she said, you've had somebody in here, you've built your profiles. I'm not gonna regurgitate what you've already done as far as your profile, but I will share some other best practices that I see working for people and how to get found. Last week I had a LinkedIn local event downtown at Big Ditch Brewery. There was a few people from UB who attended. And what we talked about, we had a panel, and part of that panel was a recruiter who talked about how recruiters use LinkedIn to find candidates. And we also talked about how job searchers or how job seekers can optimize their profile to be found on LinkedIn. So I may share some examples that were discussed at that event from a recruiter specifically as we move forward. So you may see some LinkedIn local promotions. If you're active on LinkedIn, you may have seen someone talk about this already. It's a global movement that's happening. It's turning digital connections into personal relationships. So they're doing it in big cities all over the place, right? Dallas, Sydney, Australia, Shanghai, Dallas, San Francisco, New York City, Jersey. We just had our first one here in Buffalo last week to make sure we don't miss out. And it's a good way to meet people that you've only had digital connections with. So today we'll talk about leveraging LinkedIn, how to build these relationships, how to move someone from a cold connection. You've got 500 connections now. Who are the 10 that are actually going to add value and help you in the job search? So this is going to be strategic, how you move people through the pipeline. Like I said, I've had success doing this with new business development, and that is a result of relationships, and it's taking it from A to Z and not jumping from A to S in the process, right? So what we'll talk about is your personal brand. It's not just having a profile, right? LinkedIn is a lot more than a digital resume. So you've got a profile. If someone finds you, they should be able to tell a little bit about you. You don't want to sound like everybody else in the room or everyone else in your program. You have to find a way to stand out. Developing a personal brand is going to help you do that, and we'll talk about how. The goal here is to give you a hands-on workshop on how to leverage LinkedIn. I'll have you make some connections today, how to personalize connection requests, send personalized emails through LinkedIn to alumni, to hiring managers and recruiters, and how to do some account-based prospecting so that your messages are personalized and have value to make a connection with the person on the other side. So 3 learning outcomes. We're going to teach you how to stand out, right? There's 50 people out of a program of 120 that registered and showed up today. So you're already doing something that half of your classmates are not. And I can tell you, when I graduated from my graduate program at Buffalo State, I sat in the room many times and thought, what do I have that the other people in this room don't? Or what can I do that separates me from everybody else? And although there's a lot of jobs, it's very competitive in the job market. So you want to find a way that you can stand out, that your story is different, and the way that you appeal to employers isn't the same as everyone that's sitting next to you. You each have your own strengths and unique story, and you need to find a way to tell that as part of your personal brand. We're going to teach you how to turn a cold connection into a real relationship, helping people feel that you're a good fit for their organization. A lot of times it's just as much about corporate culture and being a cultural fit as it is your work experience and your skills. And we're going to give some best practices to get started doing that today. So a little bit about you, right? You know this, but before I speak to any group, I try and get a good grasp of who the audience is, so I'm speaking to your specific needs. A highly international population here, a lot of people with work experience already, which is a huge plus. I want to make sure that you have work samples that demonstrate what you've been able to accomplish and some of the work that you've done to employers, because there's going to be a lot of people with bachelor's degrees in MIS that don't have 1, 3, 5 years of work experience. So you need to make sure that's highlighted to help you stand out up front, because if I was a hiring manager, I want to hire someone with experience over someone with no experience every single time. So you want to make sure you're showing samples of your work. If you're willing to relocate, and I hear that a lot of you are, your opportunity to land a job is much better than the people that want to stay in Buffalo. When I graduated from undergrad, I was in a saturated market. I started out as a teacher. There were very few jobs in Buffalo or Rochester, and I was willing to move. I moved to Las Vegas. I started with a job. I kickstart my career. Then I was able to move around throughout my career and ultimately come back home where I wanted to end up, which was Buffalo. A lot of you are looking for analyst type roles, and your average salary is good in this program, right? People are getting hired at $70,000 to $100,000, which is a great starting point. When it comes to your work experience, just by a show of hands, who has more than 3 years work experience? Majority, that's amazing. Who has more than 5 years work experience? Excellent. I know I've had Melissa share some information about the type of jobs that people are looking for. A lot of them look like data analyst, business analyst type positions. Is there any other positions that are high on your priority list, so I know what other jobs that you may be looking for? Program manager? Product manager? Okay, good.
Data science.
Say again?
Data science. Data science.
Data science.
Data design?
Data science.
Software and science.
Data scientist, got it, thank you.
Software and
Software engineer? That covers the majority? Okay, very good. There's over 10 million company profile pages listed on LinkedIn. We'll share some other stats about recruiters that are using it. Best thing you can do is start early. When we talk about these connections and the relationship, you can't rush it. You're going to hear me say several times throughout this presentation, don't send a connection request and ask for something right away. You have to start slow. Don't overwhelm someone and say, hey, I see that you went to UB, would you be my mentor, right? That may be too big of a commitment for someone you haven't talked to. So the first thing you're going to do is connect with them, and then I'm going to give you some follow-up conversations and messages that you can send to show them your interest. Before you ask for anything, start with just a connection request. Reveal your skills and expertise through content and engagement, and we're going to get into that in detail as well. When I looked at the fields that are hiring for MIS and data analyst type roles, I found a lot that was in technology, finance, healthcare, kind of the top three. Also a lot of insurance companies crunching numbers, right, so that they can control rates. This is probably information you know, but the job market is good for data science. IBM predicts this 25% growth by 2020, so that means there are jobs for people that are doing just what you're going to school for and leveraging the experience you already have. Does anyone have any of these skills? MapReduce, machine learning, Apache, any of those? Raise a hand if you do. Okay, 1, 2.
That's not true. I've seen your resumes. Not all of them maybe, but at least.
Okay. So you may be pushing the higher end of the salary spectrum if you have these skills and you're able to relay that in your interviews. I looked at where some of the UB alum are getting hired. A lot of the Fortune 500 companies, Fortune 5000 companies, all across the country, all across the world, really a lot of global companies are hiring for these skills. Amazon, Google, Accenture, Salesforce, Mayo Clinic, Visa, these same 4 industries we just outlined. So in the next screen, you're going to see an example of a video CV or a video resume. So I talk to people about how can you stand out. I talk to recruiters and hiring managers about what can someone do to look different. And most people everything's black and white. It's a resume and it's a cover letter, and everybody's looks and sounds fairly the same. So when we talk about content marketing and video, how video is really, it's changing the way people are presenting themselves. It's changing the way businesses are marketed. If you're on social media, you see this all day long, right? You've got talking head videos and webinars and people trying to sell to you through video. And it's because video has the highest engagement numbers, and it develops trust and personal connection faster than text or an image alone could ever do. So I'm just going to share an example. This is going to tell you a little bit about me, but picture yourself having a professionally produced video resume that you can include on your LinkedIn profile. You can include a link in your cover letter to get someone off of the page, to make a connection and hear about your experience, a way for you to stand out from everybody else, right? It's just one more thing you can do differently.
Michael Spence. I'm a business advisor, a speaker, and a LinkedIn trainer. I'm a graduate of SUNY Rockport in Buffalo State College. My career has been split between sales leadership and training and education, where I served in roles as a teacher, a professor, an academic advisor, and a program manager. In business, my greatest experience was developing a team and leading them to increase revenue from $3 million to $20 million in annual revenue over 3 years. In education, I really enjoyed helping thousands of students with career development and planning. When you ask people what I'm best at, they often say leadership and training. That I have a way of communicating information in a way that's easy to understand and apply. By identifying my strengths and blending my diverse experiences, I've learned to leverage my skills to help improve others. Last year, I launched Coaching Performance Results, a professional training company. Our specialty are performance labs, where we use scientific methods to address organizational needs. Having worked for Fortune 500 companies, startups, and higher education institutions, I've been able to develop a 360-degree view of needs from all sides. I use that experience to help bridge the gap between what businesses need and what education provides. When I'm not working, I enjoy spending time with my daughter and my girlfriend. My hobbies are sports and exercise, eating healthy, and mentoring students. If you'd like to learn more about my experience, please take a look at my LinkedIn profile, which you'll see on the next screen. Thanks, and I look forward to talking with you.
So think about how you could use a video like this to stand out from everybody else, right? I talk about my business, but you could just as easily talk about your experience. If you spent 3 years working at an IT company and the type of projects you worked on, you see the B-roll video in the background where we share images. So if you're working in group projects now and you don't have these type of photos, then start to take them. You've got 4 more months, right? And you can, they say a picture's worth 1,000 words, and a video is worth 1,000,000, right? So you learn more about me in 2 minutes watching that. Pictures from the last 10 years of my career, from since I was in grad school till today, and you start to feel like you know me a little bit. I also include a little personal piece at the end about what my hobbies and interests were, because sometimes you'll get an interview just because you make a personal connection based on a sport you played, or a hobby you have, or maybe your hometown, right? So talk about your history, talk about your interests and your hobbies after you highlight your skills, and tell it as a story and not just a bunch of buzzwords that I'm a good problem solver and I'm a strong communicator and I build teams, and that's what they see on your cover letter and your resume. They want to hear the story behind it, right? Behavioral interview questions, which I'm sure they talk about in the career services office. Talking about experience you had and how it better prepares you to serve and add value to a company. So we have a very basic outline we use. We do these for a lot of students, and we've got an outline we walk them through. We say to keep them around 2 minutes and have it professionally produced with some subheadings, high quality, good video, and you'll stand out that way as well. I've seen a lot of these. Some people have tried these and they're low quality, and remember, you only get one chance at a first impression. So this is one way. If you put a good quality video, 2 minutes, you put it on your LinkedIn profile, you're connecting with new people, you have a few conversations, then you send them the link to your About Me video, right, or your video resume. And next thing you know you, they're following up, asking you a follow-up question, and the conversation has begun. Do you think that that's a way that would help you stand out in the job search? Raise your hand if you do. And I agree, it will. There's very few people doing it. Yesterday I was doing a talk like this for academic advisors on a slightly different topic. And there's a lot of people on hiring committees. And I said, how many of you have seen more than 3 video cover letter, resumes, CVs, whatever we want to call them, in the last 100 applications? Not one person in the group. So you want to stand out. This is one way you can do it. Video is unexpected. It gives you this emotional connection with people. A lot of times you can showcase your personality, which when it's a video, there's no room for interpretation, right? You're putting the message out the way you want it to be received. When someone's reading about you on paper, they're making a lot of assumptions based on their perception of what you're saying and how you're saying it. This gives you a chance to clarify that. And it's a simple, easy way to get your message out and stand out. So before we get into engagement and kind of how to develop these relationships, again, I'm just going to ask by a show of hands, how many of you want to stay and work in the United States? Majority, if not all, okay. Are you willing to relocate to another city in the United States? Excellent.
You're asking them in February.
Right. Are you willing to negotiate compensation based on a visa sponsorship with a company? Is this something you cover in career services?
Of course we do. Not sure what you mean by based on visa sponsorship. But
Yeah, so if a company's gonna offer a visa, that maybe you negotiate that as part, if they hire people with visas, you negotiate your, no? Okay. So how can you stand out from the pack? You came here today, there's a lot of people that didn't in your same program, so it's doing the things that other people don't is what makes you stand out. If you want what others don't, you need to do what others won't or what they don't, and you're here today. Learn to be a good storyteller. That's not something that comes natural for most people, but there is an art to telling your story and engaging people. So in your job search, right, you can go to cold job boards and apply to listings all day long, and all I hear is people talk about how burnout they get and how many they send out 100 applications and they're getting like 2 responses, right? And that's because they're applying cold and there's no relationship playing in anywhere, right? They haven't talked to people inside the company to find out what the sweet spot is, what type of people they're looking for, how other people have gotten hired. And this is a statistic, I don't remember where I heard this, but I know it's true myself from jobs I've gotten in the past, and it's about who you know and not what you know. And they say that up to 80% of jobs are filled before they're even posted on a website. And it's because it's almost a technicality. The company says we have to post all jobs publicly. But the hiring manager may already have a friend they want to bring in. Maybe it's an alumni from the school and they've already called someone that's reached out to them and said, hey, I got a job opening up. Get me your resume, I'll get it to the short stack and we'll get you an interview. And that's what I always ask when I have a relationship. It's like, I don't want you to give me a job, but I want you to get me to the short stack that they're gonna look at and give me a call and then allow me to sell myself based on my skills and my experience. So just because you have a connection doesn't mean they're gonna give you a job. You still have to earn the job, but they can give you a head start. They can get you the interview and then the rest is up to you. who you know matters just as much as what you know matters. And I say that from experience, right? I said this in a room yesterday, and someone raises their hand and says, I'm so glad you said that, because I got my job because of someone I know, and he got his job because of someone I know, and I'm sick of hiding behind that, right? The truth is, it's who you know. So make sure you know people just as much as what you know, and that you can articulate your skills and your experience when they open a door for you and give you the opportunity. So this is the first way. When I'll tell you, I give this advice to everyone, and if I open up my connection request right now, there's probably 400 or 500 in there. So how do you want to stand out? Step one, personalize every connection request you send. Change the default. Don't just say, can I add you to my LinkedIn network? It means nothing, right? It means you took no time to connect with me or to tell me why you wanted to be there. So I have a queue that just builds up of people that I don't know, and I don't know why they connected, and I don't just add everybody that tries to connect. But anybody that sends the personalized invite, I connect almost instantly, and I usually reply just to say thank you for including an invite to tell me why you wanted to connect. And what did that do? I just gave them a chance to respond and start a conversation, right? And you'll see that a lot. And the more connections someone has, the more influence they have, the more noise they have in that inbox. So you want to stand out and just show that you took a little time to look into their profile and their background and tell them why you're connecting, again, without asking for anything up front other than a connection. So this is a LinkedIn stat, right? A personalized connection request is accepted more than 85% of the time. If you're just typing in recruiter in California and you're just connecting to every recruiter in California, you'll notice half of them or more are not going to accept it because they have no reason to, right? They think you just need something from them. Will you ever comment or ask them for anything? They don't know that, right? Oh, so the point is, I tell people this all the time. Every LinkedIn workshop I go to, and I'll say, connect with me and send an invite. And still, I'll tell you, that 400 in there, there's probably 5, maybe 10 that have a personal note on them. So it's like, we're talking 1, 2, 3% of people are actually doing it. Again, first impression, show you did a little work, show you care, let them know why you want to connect, and start on the right foot. A few ways you can personalize these connection requests, then we'll get into some specific examples. Make your common connection. Is it an alumni? Is it a position? Is it a data analyst or a data scientist? Do they have that title? Tell them that that's what you want to do. I see you're a data scientist. I'm graduating. I want to work in the US as a data scientist. Can we connect? Is it culture or location or company? Or did you get a referral from a faculty or staff or a friend of yours? Name drop. If you have someone that's giving you an introduction, share that name, right? That gives you credibility. That gives you more likelihood that you're going to have an immediate connection. Show you did your research by looking at, this is one of the key things, right? Read the recommendations on their page, not just the ones that they've received, but more importantly, the ones they've given. Because if they're giving it for a coworker that works at that company, they're going to tell you what they liked about that person and why they thrived. And that cues you in on what this person looks for and who they're hiring, because they're highlighting other people that they've recommended at their same company. And also look at their recent activity. If they're not active in posting content, look at what they're liking, look at what they're sharing about their company, be involved in the current events of the company so you can talk to news in the real time, right? Whether it's a press release or it's an article that was shared or it's just industry news that this person is interested in. It's a conversation starter. It warms up the connection. And don't ask for more than the connection at first. Relationships are a long-term play. You can't connect with somebody today and ask them to get on the phone tomorrow without a real reason. But you talk to them for 2 or 3 weeks or 2 or 3 or 4 touches, then and they've communicated back and forth, then you may be in a position. You've got their attention. They're communicating. Now maybe you ask to get on a Zoom call or a Skype call and ask for 15 minutes and respect their time by being prepared. So a good general connection request. This is one that I just received the other day from someone. Someone on LinkedIn highlighted me and said, Mike is someone who shares real stories but never really talks about his business. I love his content. So I get this from a girl. I read your post from Frank who shared it, and he listed you as someone to connect with. I'm fairly new to LinkedIn and looking to boost my brand, which is like my tagline on my profile. So it shows that she read it. She's telling me how she found me. I'd love to connect and add you to my network. Why wouldn't I accept her? She didn't ask me for much. She told me how she found me as a result of someone I'm connected with, right? So, and she mentioned something in my profile. So of course, click accept. Thank you for sending this. You're already ahead of, my response is you're already ahead of 95% of the people on LinkedIn because you sent a personalized message. Thank you for doing that. So now we're gonna go through some things. I don't wanna just talk to you. So find my profile on LinkedIn right now. LinkedIn.com/INMW Spence, or search Mike Spence Buffalo and you'll find me. I'd like you to just glance at my profile, click and look at my recent activity, see where my work experience is, see that I'm a student at UB, send me a one-line connection request, nothing fancy. If you don't know how to personalize a connection request, let me show you that. Is there anybody that doesn't know how? Yeah, I'll show you. I gotta go to somebody cold. You find someone your second or third degree connection request with. If you're on desktop and you click connect, you get this, right? And then you just add a note and you personalize it. If you do this on mobile, you have to click this drop-down sub-menu, and it has an option to personalize request, and you get the same option to type a note, but it's one extra step on mobile. So again, if you just click connect and add a note. So you could say something as easy as, I heard you speak at the LinkedIn and leveraging LinkedIn speech you did at UB, can we connect? When an alumni, if you're involved in an event where there's alumni speaking and they're on a panel and they're at a company that you want to work for, or you want to follow up with them, again, people will come and talk to you as students all the time. And I go and speak at Buff State, where I graduated from, and I say, reach out if you need help, if I can do anything for you. And the amount of people that actually take alumni that are willing to help up on that offer are so slim. Again, you can stand out. People have raised their hand and said, hey, I'm willing to help you. Just reach out. And most people leave and you never hear from them again. So if there's alumni that connect with you, do the same kind of thing. Hey, I want to connect with you. And then after they connect, follow up. Now you have step 2. Tell them something you liked about their presentation and ask them if you guys can have a conversation, or just ask them a direct, specific question and begin to develop that relationship. There's a lot of people, especially alumni, that are willing to help you find work, but you can't be afraid to ask. The answer is always no if you don't ask. So just ask and be respectful of people's time and try and add some value back to them. I always ask, what can I do for you? And maybe there's nothing, but I make the offer. So now we'll talk about connecting with recruiters and hiring managers. Okay, so here's an example that you could use if you were applying to Amazon. I use Amazon as an example because I have some friends that have worked there, and they've got 12 leadership principles that I'm fanatical about. I think they've got a great leadership culture. So I've applied to jobs, and this is kind of